Welcome to this edition of Probation Matters. Probation in Northern Ireland supervise over 4,000 people on a range of community sentences and licences imposed by the courts. A less well-known area of our role is our work with victims of crime. Victims have told us that timely and accurate information and communication are key to meeting their needs. Therefore, there are 3 information schemes in place to assist victims of crime. These 3 schemes are managed by Probation's Victim Information Unit. And today on Probation Matters, I'm joined by Siobhan McElnea, Probation Officer and Victim Liaison Officer, who's going to tell us a little bit about her role. And I'm also joined by one of the people that use the Victim Information Scheme, Beth. And we're going to hear a little bit of her story. So first of all, welcome, Siobhan.
Thank you.
Can you just tell me a little bit about the Victims Information Scheme and the unit and how it operates?
Sure. Basically, we are an information scheme, but we do so much more than that. The information that we share is around the sentence, and a lot of questions victims have would be around the actual supervision process, what's involved in that. And our role is really to provide some reassurance that the people that are being supervised by us do have to do work, and it's not just a matter of turning up and having an appointment and then that's it. Programs and there's different additional requirements that would be added on to community sentences, but also on licence conditions. I think in relation to who can register with us, it's anybody who has a 6-month sentence or above, or anybody that has a community sentence. So if we're thinking about prison sentences, most people then would come out on licence conditions, and at that stage we would then notify the victim of the date, the month that they're being released, but also on the day of release we would contact them and let them know what the conditions of the licences are. We hope if victims do engage with us and register with us, because they do have to register, they would have an input before those licence conditions are put in place. We would go out and meet with victims and do what's known as either written representations, where they do it themselves, and highlight concerns that they have is, want to make them feel a bit safer upon release of the service user offender. And that mostly is around exclusion areas. It's about no contact. It's about hoping that maybe they're engaging with drug and alcohol programs or other programs that are relevant to the issues that that person has faced. So we would then lodge those written representations with either the licensing board, or else we do a report with victims for the pro board, or they can do both. They can do that either themselves or we do the report on their behalf. The report's then lodged with the pro board, pro commissioners for Northern Ireland, and again it highlights the areas that a victim may wish to be considered by the pro board that would make them feel that bit safer. And I know it's part of the process that Beth has been involved in. I would have met with Beth 5-6 years ago maybe, and that was the start of my introduction to Beth, was when the pro board review was coming up. And I went out and we discussed a report. Beth will talk about that herself, I'm sure.
Thanks, Siobhan. And Siobhan, I suppose sometimes people's perception of probation is that we'll work with the service user, the person that's offended. Why is this piece of work, and you've been in the unit for a number of years now, why is it so important and so crucial in terms of the overall work that probation does?
So if you're thinking about the criminal justice agencies as a whole, the victims become a victim, and then the processes all take over. So they're nearly on this treadmill of just depending on the police, depending on the courts, depending on whoever it is and what stage that particular case is at for information. So when it comes to the sentencing, they're exhausted because that can take a very long period of time. We make the contact at the time of sentencing, and that's when we would ask if they wish to register with us. It gives back some control to the victim. What I feel it does, it gives back some control, and just that information gives a wee bit of power back to them as well, because then they feel part of the process, whereas before they're nearly on the periphery of the process itself. We're hoping that changes, and the criminal justice agencies have been endeavouring to make changes, but we're still a long way off from victims saying they fully feel part of that process and that they're in control of it.
And we also are co-located with prison service as part of this. That was one of the recommendations from a criminal justice inspectorate. And how important and critical is that partnership work and that joined up work?
As you just said, it is critical. So for my colleague who works in the prisoner release victim information scheme, it crosses over then to the community side when somebody's got their licence or whatever the sentence is. And that open communication between us as colleagues just enables us to be able to share with the victim that vital information and to keep that process going, I guess, where the victim is informed at each stage. So our relationship with the prison service is vital. Our relationship with the DOJ is vital, because the other scheme we have then is the mentally disordered offender scheme. So the DOJ, they actually deliver that scheme, but we run it. So we facilitate the conversations with the victims who can register in behalf of that scheme. And that mostly relates to the likes of hospital orders or transfer directive orders, where the mental health is the main issue within that.
Thank you, Siobhan. Beth, I was just going to ask you a little bit about how you came to be involved with probation and the Victim Information Scheme.
I came involved, my husband was murdered, and it was actually the day after the sentencing. I was approached and asked would I like to get involved, and at that time I wasn't really thinking. And then a couple of days later, yeah, I did. I signed up for it, and from then I took it on and signed up. I said I would sign up for it. I thought maybe just at the beginning it was that my trial lasted 8 weeks. It was very stressful and I wasn't thinking straight. But now, when I look back now, yeah, it was the best thing I done.
And your husband was murdered 2001?
Yeah.
Which is over 20 years ago, and you're still in contact with the justice agencies,
Yes.
still in contact with probation. That's a long road, isn't it?
Yeah. They got a very high sentence, and I've been in contact from the very beginning. It has been on. There's one out, and the rest are still in. So you know what they're doing, what's happening, when they're going to get parole, when they're on days release. You get to know, and when they're coming up, if you want to get involved, the Siobhan would get in touch with you. And I wrote my piece for it, and they say they're allowed parole.
So Beth, could you just maybe talk a little bit about why it's been important for Siobhan to have that contact with you over the 20 years, why it's been important and how it's helped you?
It's been really important to me, and it has helped me in a lot of ways. When anything happens, or I get a letter to say something's happening, all I have to do is lift the phone. Siobhan's always there at the end of the phone to explain everything of what's happening. And I would say sometimes, I think one time I phoned her near every day, one day for a week, to find out exactly what was happening. But very helpful, because a lot of people just don't understand. Once the trial's over, that's it. Nobody wants to know. Everybody just goes back on with their life, and you're the one left, and you've stuff to deal with. And Siobhan has always been there for me.
And in terms of some of the work that you've done with probation, you were part of an initiative recently, the Storytelling Project.
Yes, the storytelling, yeah.
Do you want to tell us a wee bit about that and how that helped?
That was fantastic. Siobhan had phoned me up and asked me about it, and I hemmed and hawed a bit, and then says yes, I would do it, and it was the best thing ever. And I met people that were in the same situation, and really, really good, and really helped me a lot. Very good for people to do, would encourage it.
And you just wrote your story down and told it to people, is that what you did as part of that?
I wrote my story, yeah. And then they published it, and we had a wee opening day for it. It was really fantastic.
And was that empowering for you? Did you feel like you were getting a bit more control back by being able to talk about what's happened and by having your voice heard by people?
I think it was really, it would have been, honestly saying, the first time I really spoke about it, was able to sit down and write it and say, I've never said some of this stuff before to anybody, because it was like, just forgot about it.
And that helps you to move on a little bit.
Yeah, it does help you move on and realise there's people coming now, even now, in the same situation as me.
And if somebody was in that awful situation that you find yourself in, what would you say to them? Is there anything that you could say to them that would help in terms of being able to use the criminal justice agencies that are there, the help that's there? What helped you and what might help them?
I would say the first thing to do is, I know after the trial it's a bit, things upside down, go to probation and everything they offer, yeah, because it really helps in the long term, it does. Maybe not at the time they're thinking, because there's a lot on, but really, yeah, I wouldn't have known what I couldn't have through. I wouldn't have survived without them, because I wouldn't have knew. I had a lot of stuff in my case that some of them had got out and went on the run for a couple of days, and they know where I am, and only for probation. I'd have been really struggling.
And Siobhan, maybe just to ask you a bit, we've invested a lot over the last number of years around a trauma-informed approach within the organisation, about being really mindful of that, and I suppose nowhere is that more important than the work with victims. How has that manifested for you and the staff?
Well, the first thing I would say is I've always been amazed by human resilience and the capacity for human resilience. So these really traumatic situations are brought upon families and individuals. They have to get on with it, and they get on with it in different ways. I mean, I've seen very much a lot of the trauma linked to intergenerational trauma, where you see young tots coming up behind and that person being talked about and the place being set at the dinner table for that person. And you see that trauma being linked in with the young people coming up behind. But the capacity for human resilience absolutely blows me away on a daily basis. But the services are not there. The services need to improve. The likes of the Storytelling project that Beth was talking about has been invaluable, and I'm delighted that we were able to do it, because it just gives that space to explore thoughts and feelings in a communion sort of way, because the others, while it's all different backgrounds and situations, there was commonalities came out and the support was there. So that support for each other, I think, was invaluable in the likes of the Storytelling project. We don't often have those services for the victims, and there is that thought that there's a lot there for the service user offender side, because we have to put the services in to address the offending dynamics and factors, but victims can't be left in the background. So any resources like that, I think, are invaluable. But yes, trauma, it's like a snapshot has been taken of the day and the hour that they've been informed of what's happened. And people have described the colour of the sky, what they were eating at that time, where they were. Just that snapshot, it's like a photograph was taken. So trauma is something that is very much within people's hearts and mental health, but services, unfortunately, are struggling to meet the needs and the demands of it. From our side, I mean, we hear some horrific situations, and Probation, I have to say, do provide the support to us to reduce any likelihood of that vicarious trauma that would be talked about. So we also have to deal with what we hear, but we have a very supportive team.
And Beth, the murder of your husband is something you'll have to live with for the rest of your life. It's impacted upon you and your family. And I suppose moving forward, is there anything that you want from the wider justice system or probation? Is there anything more that you think that we could be doing that would assist you and people like you as you move forward?
Well, Siobhan's right, there is a lot, the victims, they do suffer a bit. When it all happens, they do suffer, and there needs to be more. Some people just shut the door and turn away, and it's the like of probation that knows what's happened and what's going on and can work with the people. The like of when I joined up, I think maybe when the people are sentenced and then maybe a couple of weeks down the line, then get in touch with them, because then they'll be maybe a bit settled to realise, I think I need this now. It gives you a bit of security. I feel safe now that I know I only have to lift the phone and say, Siobhan, what's happening? Well, you can be reassured, and I could honestly say 100%. I don't know why I would have been without probation.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you, Siobhan, for talking to us about the role of the Victims Information Unit. To find out more about probation, you can visit our website at pbni.org.uk or on our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much.